honored to see her. But
Dude, Makoto Shinkai, bless him.
What?
Bless
You
him
don't know
for
where she is
eternity.
Exactly? The town's landscape is your only clue?
yeah.
Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Anime with Alvin. Today we're going to be making the Tonkatsu Bento box from
So
one of
a lot
my
of this
favorite
gets,
anime
huh?
movies of all time, Your Name. Now in the movie, this is a typical train bento box you can find in Japan. It's called Ekiben
Ino's
or
ball.
Ekibento. It's kind of like a quick lunch or something that you might buy for a long
What I noticed about Japan is they use pork in like everything, bro. Like anything that has to do with meat, it's usually pork. I don't know why. Do they just got like a lot of pigs down there or what? I personally, pork is like, it really depends. Like I'll eat it, but I'm not like crazy about it. I'd much rather eat just like beef, like just ground beef or chicken. Chicken is the heart of the earth for me. Chicken is my mecca, okay? I love chicken. Chicken is for everything. I'm like, you know that scene in Forrest Gump where he's talking about shrimp and all the shit you can do with shrimp? That's how I am with chicken, bro. I'm a chicken fiend.
bullet train ride, which can last anywhere from an hour to a couple.
Chicken's
The
too
rule
damn
number one
good,
that I've
bro.
learned in Japan is it's always important to have something to eat.
Yeah,
with
we
you on
gotta
the train.
turn this up. We gotta turn this up. I don't like how low it is. Where my volume booster at?
No matter how full you are,
That's good, right?
you're always going to want it. Now these
Oh,
Ekiben
this ain't full screen. What are you doing?
are typically not super expensive, anywhere between
What? Why? Boom.
$6 and $10, and also aren't considered this most super gourmet thing. They've often been pre-prepared and kind of have been sitting there, but in the film, it looks absolutely delicious.
Okay.
Just as Shinkai Makoto always makes his food look.
Yes,
So
he
we
does.
made sure to get a couple while we were taking some bullet trains across Japan, and we actually got 2 this time.
Dude, if I could eat the food that's in anime, bro, my life would be complete. The only way I'll ever get close to eating it is going to fucking Japan.
Just because both were tonkatsu and I kind of wanted to see which one was better. One of them was really dry and just didn't really have a lot of meat. It was mostly just breading and just super tough and just not good at all. But the other one was surprisingly good. It almost tastes like they made it 15 minutes before I had purchased it. The rice was still fresh
How come we don't do bento boxes here, bro?
and the meat was not cold.
I mean, we don't really eat with like chopsticks and shit, but you could eat all that with a fork, bro. Or like a spoon or a spork or something.
Not tough. And
We
not
don't really do anything like we don't even make like we don't make like pre-made shit like that. We're all about like, I guess because bento boxes are more like you sit down and eat, where I guess nowhere else really but America does that. Like we're all about like on the go. Like I want my shit and I'm walking and eating. Where nobody else, I guess, does that except for us. Or nobody else does it as much as us. Because I guess like when we do it, it's like looked down upon in other countries. When they see them, like that's how they know you're American, is when they see you walking around eating shit.
not soggy. It was actually very, very delicious. Provided
Maybe.
the correct
I don't know.
sustenance for this bullet train ride, and I was very happy I was able to have this
That
experience
looks good as fuck though.
while in Japan. And that alone inspired me to come home and want to make this. So, because it is a tonkatsu bento, the main star of the show is the tonkatsu itself. A
Okay.
deep fried pork loin with panko
You better season that thing.
breadcrumbs, usually served with a sauce over some rice. Now, in the US, you don't really kind of get the same pork that you do in Japan.
Although I guess, yeah, he's got to make it the way it was in the anime, so you can't season it. But I'm covering that shit, bro.
It usually comes in just the loin with all the fat removed, whereas in Japan, tonkatsu is often usually made with a cut of pork that includes not only the loin, but the fat cap and kind of like a nice little tender part of meat around it. That's what kind of everybody's favorite part is. We were unfortunately only able to get just the loin, so I will still make it work. So I want to take this entire pork loin and slice this into roughly 2-inch rounds, because this is going to get pounded out to help tenderize the meat a little bit.
You know what else is gonna get pounded out? Your mother.
If the meat somehow has tough membranes and stuff, I like
Yep.
to sort of
Oh,
score
yeah.
the surface or any of the membranes to allow the meat to loosen once you start slamming it with a metal tool of your choice.
Your dad.
Okay, once I have pounded my meat out thoroughly, now it's important to salt the meat as well. Really season
Damn,
that
you
meat
really did flatten the fuck out that. What you making, bacon?
before we start to bread it.
You making
With some
ham
salt.
slices?
This is how flat the cutlet like to look because it's going to get a little bit bigger when it fries. So I'm going to let these kind of sit on the side until I'm ready to work with them again. Okay, now for my favorite part of making tonkatsu, the tonkatsu sauce. A lot of restaurants have their own version of this. You can also buy it, but I think a good tonkatsu really lives and dies by not only the pork quality, but the sauce. Tonkatsu sauce is a nice sweet and sour sauce that usually has some fruits and vegetables to kind of add to the flavor of the sauce itself. For our version, I'm
hold
gonna
up,
cut
apples? I didn't even see that.
a carrot, a whole apple, a whole tomato, about a half of a white onion. Actually,
That's
let's just do the whole thing, why not? And some prunes, about like 5 or 6 of those. Chop those roughly because this is going to get cooked down and blended later. We're going to start with a medium saucepan, throw all those nice fruits and vegetables in there, kind of simmer that until it starts to get soft. Once that's good, I'm going to add in about 200 grams of soy sauce, 200 grams of sugar, 50 grams of rice vinegar, and about 100 grams of Worcestershire sauce. This will get adjusted
Wash your sister sauce, buddy. Get it right.
to taste at the end, so it's not super important the initial quantity. This is going to simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes until it is getting nice and soft, and then we're going to take an immersion blender and blend it until it is smooth. Now, I didn't mind taking any of those skins from the apples and leaving them in there because 1, it adds flavor, and 2, we're also going to strain this out through a sieve, pressing that through so that any of
I was
those
wondering if he was going to drain it.
hard bits that's left behind, or what is remaining is a nice, delicious, somewhat thick tonkatsu sauce. If it's too sweet, add some more vinegar. If it's not Worcestershire enough, you add some more of that. This is the stage where you can adjust it to the way that you like it. Okay, on to the breadcrumbs. Now, instead of just using dried panko breadcrumbs or normal Italian breadcrumbs, in Japan it's common to use fresh panko breadcrumbs or breadcrumbs made from actual bread, like shokupan. And since we can't really buy that prepackaged here, what you can do,
I say, what do you just leave bread out?
you go to the store, any of those Asian bakeries, you get either milk bread or shokupan. You can blitz it kind of roughly in a food processor. Not too fine though. What's the best part is if you have these little shreds of bread that kind of create these nice jagged stalactites of crusty stuff after you've been frying them. So once we blitz that, crusting in it all, you can take the crust out if you want. I just don't want to waste food. Our milk bread snow is ready for battering it. So to get our frying station set up, I'm going to crack about 6 eggs. I know that might seem overkill for 2 pork fillets, but we're going to use these later. Do not worry. It's going to be a fun time today. I'm going to first sprinkle some flour over these pork chops until they're nice and dusted, making sure to pat until all of the excess flour comes off. Dunk them in the egg and coat them in a nice thick coat of these fresh breadcrumbs, pressing it to make sure that as much sticks to it as possible and then letting it sit on
Bro, it's killing me that they're not even seasoning the breadcrumbs.
Obviously, there's a lot of leftover breadcrumbs and eggs. We're going to turn that into something fun right after this.
No seasoning.
So I'm just going to let that sit for about 5 minutes so that any of that excess coating can adhere to the pork chop. And so while that's happening, I'm going to thinly slice up some...
Dude, if I go to Japan, bro, I gotta carry hot sauce with me at all times, bro.
And cabbage kind of helps you digest and is known to make the fattier, greasier things go down and add a nice refreshing crunch to your food. Now, this is also seen in the Tonkatsu Bento box in your name. So I'm going to hand cut this, slicing as thinly as possible to get shreds because you're going to be eating this raw. Once that's done, we're also going to just slice up some pickled radish that we got at the store. This thing is quite large. I think the yellow is just food coloring, but it's just a nice pickled element to eat with your fried food. So we're just going to cut up a couple slices of that. Okay, once the oil has been heated to 350 degrees, we're going to fry each cutlet for about 5 to 7 minutes until nice and golden brown. Once removing it, season immediately with salt and just admire those nice bits and craggly parts.
Dude, that looks so good though. Damn, that looks so good.
Of the fried bread pieces that we used instead of just using normal breadcrumbs, because that would be very, very, very different in appearance. Once that rests, we're going to go ahead and assemble our bento. First, we're going to just take some rice that we cooked off to the side, not super important, put that at the bottom of our bento box, which is actually quite long. Then a nice bed of our thinly sliced cabbage right on top of that.
That's a big ass bento box,
The heat from the rice should slowly cook the cabbage slightly, so it's not super, super, super raw.
It's all about the presentation.
Then we're going to slice our tonkatsu up into little thick slices, probably about 3/4 of an inch long. I tend to like them on the bigger side. And because this is quite a long box, I'm actually going to use about 1 whole cutlet and about 70% of the other cutlet to kind of fill out this box. Don't worry, those leftover pieces will be put to good use as well. Then, just like the movie...
Dude, that looks good as fuck, though. And that's a hefty portion, brother.
I'm going to spoon the sauce approximately over half of the cutlet, allowing the excess sauce to drip onto the cabbage and down into the rice below, which should be quite delicious.
Damn.
Then I'm going to garnish the top with a few just simple sliced scallions, assemble our radishes in the corner, along with a pickled plum or a umeboshi, as that will also help cut down on the fattiness from our fried foods. And I present to you...
that one thing is going to help cut down on the fattiness, bro. That'll do it.
Tonkatsu.
That's like eating the most disastrous meal in the world and then fucking washing it down with, with a fucking Diet Cola, brother.
Train bento box from your name. A welcome snack, I'm sure, for any traveler going off to try and save the world from ruin. but also just a nice meal to have or to give out. All right, let's give it a try. Let's get a
looks
piece
so
of this
good,
pork
too.
from the middle with some sauce and with some rice. And yeah, it is kind of tough. You can't really do too much about it because pork loin on its own is very lean
I would
and
say pork is just like that.
very tough. And usually this is kind of the thing you would want to enjoy with high quality pork chop meat. But you can't always get that, and that's totally fine because the sauce and the crust and the rice all together make up for that in its entirety. Still super
Yeah, really my only problem with this whole dish is just lack of seasoning, bro. Like, my shit would have been covered with like something, bro. I'm talking like some slap your mama, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking like, and if you don't got that, like cayenne pepper, like salt, pepper, onion, bro, like garlic powder, like something, like you got to have at least the basics, bro. Like it's got to be there. Like salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder are like the Avengers of spices. You got to have at least those. And then preferably some sort of like cayenne, like some sort of spice, you know what I'm saying? Some sort of chili powder, like some sort of spice there. But you gotta have something. Or ideally you just buy it all in one from, you know, somebody that does it for you. You know what I'm saying?
delicious. I'm glad everybody in the studio got to come down and try some. And this is where things start to get fun because you do have a lot of leftover ingredients from making this, both cooked and uncooked. So I had a couple of ideas. First things first, let's take those random pieces of leftover cutlet that have just been sitting there since we didn't get to use them. Let's cut them into just little cube-like pieces, roughly chopped, and set them aside. Then I'm going to cut up the rest of our scallions that
I mean, not gonna lie, what I would do is I would just like chop it all up and just throw it in a bowl. There
we
you
bought
go.
for this, probably about
But he
3 or
gonna be
4 of
fancy
those,
with it.
and some radish that we also have left over in small cubes. All right, now let's get to some fun stuff. In a wok, I'm going to toast a little bit of butter until it is about slightly brown, and then I'm going to take the remaining breadcrumbs from the frying process and throw that in and toast them evenly until the breadcrumbs are nice and crispy. Then I'm going to remove all those breadcrumbs and
not gonna lie, this might turn out better than the bento box.
a little bit of oil so that we can fry up the remaining amount of beaten egg that we used in the battering process as well. There's probably about 4.5 eggs in here, so that's a good amount. I'm going to fry this up wok style, which means high heat, let it bubble up and almost turn into a pancake before breaking it up into small bits. And this is the important part when it comes to wok frying eggs for something that I'm going to be making right now, is that I like to kind of crush these up into little bits, slow frying them till all the water comes out. So you're not getting fluffy eggs, you're getting crispy fried shards of eggs, almost like crispy ground beef.
Yep.
This actually takes quite some time because you have to break up all those chunks and essentially watch the eggs turn into these little shard bits that start to dance from the heat of the wok, because that doesn't happen until all the water is gone, and that's when the aroma of those egg yolks start to fry and come out really, really deliciously. Once this is ready, I'm going to throw in some leftover cabbage that we had on the side that I also chopped up, give that a little bit of a nice coloring on it, and then I'm going to throw in those pork cutlet pieces that I cut up earlier, frying
Gotta
that up
have that MSG right there
as well. Then to season, I'm going to add some MSG, sugar, and salt. And approximately a 1:1 to 2 ratio is what I've learned. And then I'm going to add in all the leftover rice that we had from the rice cooker from the bento box. This is just going to get thrown in, and if you can't...
So this is just like a fucking stir fry, bro. Which is pretty much what I said, like just take it all and throw it in a bowl. I mean, he did with a few extra steps, you know what I'm saying? He like fried it up, which... I mean, that's just better.
I said by now, yes, we are making fried rice. The goal here is to also break up all the large clumps so that every single grain of rice has been coated by any of the oil and the flavors from the remaining things in the pan, and it's going to start sizzling and cooking on its own. We don't want any clumps here, so I'm alternating between a moving around process with the wok ladle as well as a smashing down process to kind of break up any of those lumps and make sure that this whole entire thing, as my friend Eric calls it, who owns a Taiwanese restaurant, Lily Fleming, where each grain of rice is almost coated in oil and cooks like a steak, which is pretty delicious. So after all the rice has been broken up, we're going to finally add a couple spoonfuls of our Tonkatsu sauce.
Nah, this is good, bro.
This is going to go
This is way better than the bento box. We've officially surpassed the bento box. This is way fucking better.
Edge of the wok, and then we're going to slowly incorporate it in until the sauce is nice and
this is way better.
Seared. Okay, once this is almost done, we're going to add in radishes and scallions that we cut up earlier, about 90% towards the end, and just kind of let that warm through. We don't want to cook this down or get soggy. This is just...
You know what I would do is I'd fucking take like peppers and shit, like cut up peppers and stuff, and dude, throw that in there too.
Mainly trying to break the rawness of it, but also had a nice bit of bite and greenness to our dish. So I present to you some leftover katsudon fried rice. made with the leftover pork cutlet,
Oh yeah,
leftover
brother.
breadcrumbs, and the eggs, where the breadcrumbs are going to be nice crispy garnish and everything else just kind of gets turned into fried rice. But should be delicious because, well, how can this not be? Upon tasting it, this
How
is in
could
fact
it not be?
confirmed
For real.
quite delicious. I approve. I think my friend Eric would also approve as well. Everybody that tried it also approved. So I think it's fair to say making fried rice with this kind of food is approved. If you do it right. This whole thing actually took about 30 minutes because frying the eggs and the rice to get it crispy took at least 20 to 25 minutes.
But it was worth it, brother.
Speaking of my friend Eric, one of the dishes that he serves at his restaurant 886 is stir-fried cabbage with bacon.
Are we getting an additional? Are we getting additional content?
Which sounds rather interesting, but is actually way greater than the sum of its parts because he has access to really good cabbage and really good bacon. And we're just using normal store-bought cabbage and bacon because we had so much cabbage left over. I kind of wanted to make something a little bit healthier out of it.
I'm not a big cabbage guy, but like, to be honest, this probably will be good as fuck.
So yeah, we're gonna add bacon. First, I'm gonna cut up an entire pack of thick cut bacon. I'm gonna slice up about 4 garlic cloves very, very thinly into rounds. And then we're just gonna render all the bacon fat out into the pan just by cooking the bacon in the wok itself till it is slightly crispy. I don't want the bacon crispy all the way through. Then I'm gonna
so you ain't cutting it that much.
fat. Then I'm gonna throw in our garlic until it is barely starting to brown on the outsides, and then our cabbage. We just took all the leftover cabbage that we had, cut them into roughly big chunks, and just threw it in and tossed it. And make sure that each piece of cabbage is separate and is coated
I thought this would be like way more chopped up, but
deliciously in bacon and garlic flavor. Once it's looking pretty good, I'm gonna add in a pretty heavy dose of MSG, probably about a tablespoon or so. The stuff is delicious. And once this is almost ready to go, once again, finish with a tablespoon or so of the leftover tonkatsu sauce. Add a little bit of moisture, kind of bring everything together and add some acidity.
I would try that.
That's it. Pretty simple. Plate it up. This is just stir-fried cabbage with bacon. Sounds simple because it is, but it's somehow greater than the sum of its parts in many ways. Obviously, still very different than a restaurant version, but Eric's dish inspired me to kind of turn cabbage into something more exciting this way, and we had some bacon, and that always is something that people love. So yeah, that's what we did with the leftovers from today's shoot, and we packed home everything that we made today. There was a lot of people in the studio, and we made sure to divvy it up, not so evenly, I guess.
How do I get a job here, bro?
But made sure that everybody had some nice presents to take home with them and enjoy for dinner.
That's what I gotta do.
Immediately in the car. I don't know how people do that, but have fun.
My shit would not even make it to the car, brother. Are you kidding me? Hold up. That's raw. That's raw. Okay. I love how now it's not called binging with Babish. Now it's just called Babish Culinary Universe. Like he's got the fucking MCU